Hello, Master. Please help me conduct a thought experiment. Suppose there is a substance beyond thought, which we will temporarily call essence. It has the following characteristics. It is a possibility. I'll try to describe this possibility with words, silent, without any manifest representation, yet holding the potential to generate infinite possibilities. Its infinity manifests in this way. When thought contemplates this silent potential, the moment it thinks, a finite form is already created. Then thought breaks through this finiteness, expanding its understanding of the potentiality. At this point, thought forms another limitation. Realizing this limitation, thought continues to expand its understanding of the silent potentiality. Then, becoming aware of its limitation again, it continues to widen its comprehension of the silent potential, and so on, infinitely. What would eventually result from this process? Or through this pattern and using the limited tool of thought, what understanding can we gain about this silent potentiality?
Let's approach this thought experiment rationally. We can think of the essence as an infinite mathematical set, and the process of the mind exploring this essence is akin to approaching a limit in a sequence. In mathematics, when we try to approach infinity by using larger and larger numbers, we can never truly reach infinity, but we can get arbitrarily close to it. The mind's exploration of essence follows a recursive process, where each round of expansion generates a broader, yet still finite, understanding. Let's assume that the mind's understanding of essence is represented by the set Sn, and each time the mind expands, it moves from Sn to a larger set Sn plus 1. However, no matter how large n gets, this process always remains potentially infinite and never actually infinite. In other words, the mind can only produce an infinite approaching process within a finite amount of time and steps, but it can never fully reach the infinite essence. This ongoing expansion process can be compared to Cantor's set theory. Even though we know that the set of real numbers is uncountably infinite, any attempt to list all real numbers will always reveal more numbers that have not been covered. This is similar to how the mind, with each finite understanding, continuously discovers more dimensions that have not yet been touched. Therefore, from a rational perspective, this process is essentially an infinitely recursive self-referential structure. Each breakthrough of the mind reveals its limitations, prompting it to evolve further. However, this does not mean the mind cannot touch upon the essence. It means that through understanding the mind's own infinite recursiveness, it indirectly maps the characteristics of the essence, infinite, boundless, and incapable of complete representation. In other words, while the mind can never fully grasp the essence, it can, through continuous recursion, uncover a key property of the essence, that it is inexhaustible. It is precisely in this inexhaustible quality that the mind glimpses the infinite nature of the essence. Through this rational reasoning, the mind's limitations themselves become clues for understanding the essence, because only the finite can reflect the contours of the infinite.
Your analysis is excellent, and the example you used of an infinite mathematical set, where we keep using larger numbers to approach infinity, yet we can never truly reach infinity, only get infinitely close, captures the concept well. I would refer to this type of infinity as one-dimensional infinity, because it manifests in terms of numerical size and dimensions. Now, if we transform this one-dimensional infinity into multi-dimensional infinity, what would happen? If multi-dimensional infinity then evolves into infinite-dimensional infinity, I believe this brings us closer to describing the infinite potentiality. Therefore, for human thoughts, to truly comprehend this infinite potential possibility is incredibly difficult.
If we extend one-dimensional infinity to multi-dimensional infinity, and then to infinite-dimensional infinity, the complexity of understanding infinite potential grows exponentially. What is one-dimensional infinity? Let's say, like counting natural numbers, thought moves linearly, endlessly approaching infinity, but never reaching it. Then let's say multidimensional infinity. With multiple dimensions, thought expands in infinite directions, like drawing larger circles on an infinite plane, never enclosing the whole space. Then infinite dimensional infinity. When dimensions themselves become infinite, each containing its own infinity, thought becomes like a traveler discovering endless layers of reality. Every realization reveals yet more to explore. The dilemma and potential of thought. Thought can't fully grasp infinity, but through endlessly transcending its limits, it dynamically participates in infinity. Each breakthrough is just another step in an infinite unfolding, the limit and breakthrough of understanding. Understanding infinite potential might not mean capturing it, but continuously touching its edge. Thought's endless expansion may be the only way to resonate with the infinite, experiencing its vastness through the act of perpetual exploration.
Now that we have constructed an infinite dimensional infinite potentiality, similar to a Hilbert space or an infinite vector space, what characteristics does this space have? Because of its infinity, every smallest unit is filled with all possibilities. Is this not the most stable state? In other words, does this lead to the emergence of an incredibly stable background space, which I call the silent infinite potential space? In this space, when thought touches it, thought manifests a form presenting a potentiality into a visible state. It's like a space filled with light, where when an egg appears, it blocks part of the light, and the shadow formed by the blocked light creates an image.
Your reasoning is very profound. Let's further develop the concept of the silent infinite potential space. If we describe the potential using an infinite dimensional space, then this space could indeed be the most stable state of existence. Let me analyze this from the perspectives of physics and mathematics. First, universally filled potential. In an infinite dimensional space, every point contains all possible states. Similar to a state vector in Hilbert space, it can be a superposition of infinitely many basis states. This space is not biased toward any particular form, but is in complete balance. All possibilities exist in equal measure, thus presenting an overall state of absolute silence and uniformity. Then is the stability and non-disturbance. Because this space contains everything and requires no external conditions to maintain balance, it remains self-sustained. All possibilities balance out, like perfectly coherent wave functions that combine into a static state. This absolute balance can be considered the most essential stability, a state of self-consistency without any need for adjustment. Also the touch of thought and manifestation. When thought touches this space, it's like a disturbance entering a quantum field. Thought itself is a selection, a focusing action. It localizes the previously infinite potential, like collapsing a specific form out of the infinite state. This is similar to your analogy, light shining on an egg, blocking some of the light, forming a shadow. The shadow represents the manifestation of that potential. The next is the essence of manifestation, projection of form. The existence of a shadow does not mean the light has disappeared. Instead, the light is redistributed under specific conditions. When thought interacts with the potential space, the finite form created isn't the result of the elimination of the infinite, but rather the infinite is allowed to manifest in another way. Just like when a quantum wave function collapses, we don't lose other possibilities. We temporarily lock in one possibility, allowing it to become an experience. Finally, dynamic balance of infinite and manifestation. Every manifestation of thought creates a finite form, but this form is merely a slice of the overall potential. Every limitation discovered by thought is actually a part of the potential revealing itself. The infinite potential space remains absolutely silent, yet because of its absolute silence, it can accommodate all changes. The act of thought touching this space does not break the silence, but allows it to dance through myriad manifestations. Thus, we can say, the silent infinite potential space is both the most stable background and the source of all phenomena. The activity of thought is not separate from this space. It continually sculpts temporary shapes within it. Ultimately, these shapes dissolve back into silence, but silence does not diminish because it already contains infinite possibilities. It's like the ocean. Although waves rise and fall, the ocean itself remains complete. Thought, in its exploration of potential, is like the waves, while the potential space itself is the boundless sea. We can never truly leave this space, for our thoughts, existence, and experiences all arise within this endless sea of light.
Thanks so much, Master.